workforce has grown significantly over the last couple of years. I think there's a big need. And when we see things like this New York State cybersecurity law that just passed at the beginning of October, I mean, one of the requirements is that you have to have a qualified CISO. And so some organizations just aren't going to be able to meet that requirement. And, so we'll see. I think that having a fractional or a virtual CISO has become kind of an avenue that folks can take if they can't recruit or retain those roles. And we've seen in the workforce report that comes out annually is showing that the average tenure of a CISO is about 24 months right now. So, there's a lot of turnover there. And you do have to have someone at your organization that can speak at the board level, talk to your executive team, and also continue to move you forward in your cyber program. Things like strategic planning may not be something that is very easy to do for someone who's maybe trained as a systems analyst, for instance. So there are different levels to your security program, and I think that vCISOs are going to become even more popular in the coming years as we see these initiatives go forward.
Welcome to the Risk Never Sleeps podcast, in which we learn about the people that are on the front lines, protecting patient safety and delivering patient care. I'm Ed Gaudet, the host, and today I am pleased to be joined by my good friend, Kate Pierce, Senior vCISO and Executive Director of Government Affairs at Fortified Health Security. That is a mouthful, Kate.
It certainly is.
Did I get that correct? Is that
you did?
All right, awesome. Let's start off by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself, your current role, and your organization.
Sure thing. My name is Kate Pierce. I am a recovering CIO and CISO from a hospital. I was there for 21 years and have now got the best job in the world. I work for Fortified Health Security, who is one of the only healthcare-only cybersecurity companies in the United States currently, and we have done a lot of great work. I serve as a virtual CISO for organizations that need maybe a fractional CISO, don't need a whole CISO. And then I also get to advocate for hospitals and healthcare organizations with the Health Sector Coordinating Council, cyber working groups, with the 405D program, and other government initiatives that are advancing healthcare policy and hoping to find some funding for some of these hospitals as we move forward. So that's my current role.
So Kate never sleeps, as well as Risk never sleeps.
No, Kate sleeps maybe 4 or 5 hours a night.
So how did you get into healthcare?
Actually, I started out after high school. I went in the Army, and I actually was badly injured and ended up spending 2 months in the hospital.
Whoa.
And after the Army said goodbye to me, and they said I was not able to do physical training anymore, so we parted ways. But I decided that healthcare was something that I really, really enjoyed. So over 30 years ago, I actually the Army actually funded my vocational rehab, and I got degrees in math, computer science, and education. And decided I wanted to work in healthcare. So I became a healthcare IT geek over 30 years ago. So that's how I kind of got into it. It's something that I've always loved and have had a big passion for healthcare ever since being a recipient of very kind healthcare workers.
Wow, that's a great origin story. And why the Army?
Hey, why the Army? Because I grew up in a town of just over about 350 people. Wasn't a lot of opportunity around. From my parents were both from farm families, and I decided that I wanted to get an education. We had no funding, and so I said, "Well, you know what? I'm going to join the Army. I'm going to do good things to support our country, and in return, participate in this education program they had to help subsidize my college. So didn't turn out exactly as I expected, but they actually did end up subsidizing my college, which was awesome. And I got to do the thing that I love the most.
Nice. And you're still in that servant role as well, which is excellent. Yeah. No, I also went through the Army for the same reasons. So appreciate you sharing that with us. So when you look out over the next couple of years, 12, 24 months or so, what are your strategic initiatives? What are you focused on?
Well, I think that in healthcare, there are the haves and the have-nots when it comes to cybersecurity. There's a lot of larger organizations that are really doing an amazing job protecting their networks. And then there's a whole nother group of under-resourced providers, everything from 1 and 2 doc shops to, small critical access hospitals, rural facilities, nursing homes, et cetera, that really, it's not that they don't intend to protect their networks or don't want to, they just don't have the resources to do it, whether those resources are funding or workforce or whatever those challenges might be for them. So I would like to see us continue to move forward in addressing some of those needs at the government level, at the national level, and as we saw recently in New York, actually at the state level, maybe, to make sure that we're all rising. The rising tide lifts many boats. So if we can rise those minimum cybersecurity performance goals up so that everyone can get to that level, I think it's going to go a long way in taking us off the most attacked infrastructure sector and the highest cost of a data breach of any other infrastructure sector. So I would like us to step back from having those lead roles like we've had for the last 14 years.
Yeah, stronger together. I love that.
Definitely.
And what do you think is going to happen with the CPGs? If you could have a crystal ball and you could look into it, any thoughts about where we're headed there? Do you think HIPAA will subsume the CPGs, or?
As I shake my magic 8 ball, I
try
think
again.
It's keep trying to get there, right?
Yes.
I think if things play out the way that they are on the trajectory we're currently on, I think the CPGs will be wrapped into the HIPAA security rule and phased in over a period of time. Hopefully, this will be coming down the pike sooner than later. I've seen, I know HHS released the HIPAA security rule change to the White House in October. We're expecting to see that to go to an NPRM or a notice of proposed rulemaking by the end of the year for a 60-day comment. So I think it's coming. I think this has been a bipartisan issue. Long-standing bipartisan issue. Both the Republicans and the Democrats support improvement of cybersecurity performance goals, or the improvement of cybersecurity in healthcare. It's TBD still if that's going to get held up to some degree, but my crystal ball would say, I think that we're in agreement. We have to do something. HIPAA security rule hasn't been updated in 23 years. It's time. And we need to continue to move forward as a country, and this will do a lot of good for a lot of organizations. Yeah,
I think patient care and patient safety is something we could all get behind, regardless of, which side of the political table you're on. And I think a week or so ago, the Warner bill was reintroduced as a bipartisan supported bill. So that's encouraging, to say the least. Yeah. And they did mention the notion of standard cybersecurity controls. So I thought that was, again, a nod probably to the CPGs. So hopefully we'll start to see some positive movement there. Yeah,
it was good to see that Senator Cassidy was chairing that bill as the ranking member of the HELP committee right now. Yeah. But since I think he's supposed to inherit the position of the chair of the HELP committee. So good to see he's already behind it, and he understands that this is something that needs to keep moving forward. So
exactly.
That's my crystal ball. Don't quote me.
I think it's probably pretty accurate. So now, as a vCISO, you get to, I'm sure, see a lot of different programs across a number of different hospitals. How many hospitals do you affiliate with at one time?
Right now, I kind of stepped up like my role with other things at the organization. So I only have one client right now. The most I had was 3, but our vCISO workforce has grown significantly over the last couple of years. I think there's a big need, and when we see things like this New York State cybersecurity law that just passed at the beginning of October, I mean, one of the requirements is that you have to have a qualified CISO. And so some organizations just aren't going to be able to meet that requirement. And, so we'll see. I think that having a fractional or a virtual CISO has become kind of an avenue that folks can take if they can't recruit or retain those roles. And we've seen in the workforce report that comes out annually is showing that the average tenure of a CISO is about 24 months right now. So, there's a lot of turnover there. And you do have to have someone at your organization that can speak at the board level, talk to your executive team, and also continue to move you forward in your cyber program. Things like strategic planning may not be something that is very easy to do for someone who's maybe trained as a systems analyst, for instance. So there are different levels to your security program, and I think that vCISOs are going to become even more popular in the coming years as we see these initiatives go forward.
What are you seeing in AI with some of your customers, or do you, from a maturity adoption perspective, governance perspective?
I think that there is a very wide variety of adoption, right? Some folks are staying away from it like it's the plague, and other folks are fully embracing it with a full-fledged governance committee and working strategically to move it forward. So it's everything and everything in between that, right? But I will say it's important that if you do embrace AI, that you do it in a responsible manner and that you're addressing any of those security concerns you might have, or even just concerns you might have that aren't security related. Maybe it's just about, what is the ability for your AI program to improve what you're doing, and how are you measuring it? And, so how are you standing up those types of things in your organization, as well as how are you addressing your patients, right? Your patients need to be made aware that you're using AI, and do they have the right to refuse? And so there's a lot of different pieces to it. And if you go at it unprepared, it may not be as advantageous as you thought it might be.
Yeah, no, there's a lot going on there, and it seems like every week it's something new, and it's a good time to be in healthcare tech. That's for sure.
For sure.
But what keeps you up at night?
Oh gosh, pretty much everything that we just talked about. I mean, I think about these smaller organizations that really just don't have the resources, the ones whose margins are typically, 1%, and they just don't have the resources or the funding to move their cyber forward. We're seeing over the last 5 years or so, a lot of those organizations are more and more becoming acquired by larger organizations. So they're kind of losing their autonomy and their ability to maybe address the specific concerns of their community. So it's kind of sad to see that those healthcare organizations, just lose some of their control. But, maybe it's the wave of the future. We've seen there have been at the government levels some new rural initiatives that were put out by Microsoft and Google to help these organizations. I just think there's a little bit more complexity there than they anticipated, and maybe it's taken a little longer than they thought it would to fully come in and become a part of these organizations. But you don't know until you try it, right?
And everyone thinks they know healthcare until they get into it and realize, whoa.
Until they get into healthcare and they go, wow.
They go, wow. Outside of healthcare, what are you most passionate about? What would you be doing if you weren't doing this job?
Well, things is just to hang out with my family. There were so many years where I lived in Vermont. one of my children they were stationed in Spain and the other one was in San Diego. And so it's COVID and nobody can fly and travel. So we were really separate. And now we all live within about 3 miles of each other. So
nice.
we have a lot of family time now, and that is amazing. And it's what life's all about, I guess, are my children and my grandchildren. The other
You have grandchildren? Wait a minute, Kate.
Yeah.
Come on. How many?
5.
What?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So
We're expecting our first grandchild.
congratulations.
We're having a grandson. I mean, knock on wood, all things considered, but yeah, we're pretty excited about it. Yeah.
Wow.
Any advice?
You know what? Just enjoy them because, as a parent, you were all concerned about every detail. And as a grandparent, you can just, they can eat cookies in the middle of the afternoon. I don't care.
I get a do-over as a parent. Is that what you're telling me?
You get a do-over and then you get to give them back. It's awesome.
The best of both worlds.
I mean, and the most amazing thing is to watch the children that you raised become parents and just how amazing they do at the job that you knew that you spent your whole life trying to figure out, am I doing the right thing? So I guess I did something right because both my children and their spouses are amazing parents. So
yeah, that's so funny you say that. I just this morning I declared to my daughter and my wife that my daughter has officially become more mature than her father. So she crossed over that point. So she's
sure, because now I'm just the irresponsible one. Hey, you want to, I don't know. Do you want to run out in the rain? That's fine.
As my wife always says, when are you going to grow up? But now I get to stay young because I get to chase around grandkids, right?
For sure. And, there's nothing like hanging out with them. The other passions I have, I love football, so it's my favorite time of year.
Oh,
Thanksgiving is a great holiday because there are 3 games on.
Yeah. Who's your team? What team do you like?
I'm a Patriots fan.
What?
Live and die by the Patriots. I can't.
Oh, we're dying.
Yeah, we're dying this year, but we've had plenty of great years.
You know what? I don't buy that. I don't care. I want more.
I do too. But, we'll figure it out.
It's painful. It's so painful.
Seahawks fan. So
Seahawks?
My husband's a Seahawks fan. It was almost the death of us, but,
Pete Carroll.
Well, remember that year in the Super Bowl? When
I do.
I have to remind him all the time.
All the time.
That's what wives do. So
How
I love
about,
doing
you like
that.
you like basketball? You like the Celtics?
Not really of basketball. I used to be when I was growing up, but not so much anymore. I like, outdoor stuff. It's so beautiful here. Biking, swimming, hiking,
Nice.
hanging out with the grandkids and the family. It's just it's a great place to be.
Do you have horses?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I asked you that.
No.
I think you mentioned farm a while ago. So
that was in Vermont. My parents were both from dairy farms.
Dairy farmers. Okay. If you could go back in time, which is probably last week for you, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
I would tell my 25-year-old self or my 20-year-old self to slow down and enjoy the ride. To stop being so much in a hurry to get it to the destination so quickly and just slow down and enjoy the ride and don't sweat the small stuff. In the long run, it doesn't matter. There's only certain things that are very important. It's, for me, it's faith, family, and friends. And that's, what you should focus on. That's what I would tell myself. Life has gone by very, very quickly.
I love that. And because you did use a lyric, I can go ahead and pull this up. You did say, at least I'm enjoying the ride, I think.
Yes.
From one of the songs. So there we go. It's my little prop to keep me amused. All right. Speaking of music, if you were on a desert island, what 5 albums would you bring?
I'd probably bring, I'm just going to go songs, and 5 is a lot to name because, I had only prepared for 3. And so,
Okay.
So I guess I'd bring Stairway to Heaven.
Oh. There's Led Zeppelin 4. That's the album.
Yeah. Hotel California.
Oh, Hotel California. Off the Hotel California album.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
And my wacky one is the Guess Who. They had an album, The Best of the Guess Who, and they were just amazing. And I remember listening to it on 8-track as I was going to school in my beat-up car with the 8-track player. So love those three.
Nice. Guess Who? That's great. That's a good ad. I love that.
It's very, very good. Yeah, those are some awesome ones.
All right. How about movies?
Okay, my number one movie ever is Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
It is just like every time I watch it, I get something different from it. Like you can see the underlying messages in a lot of different ways in that movie. And I just love, like, you could watch it with different people and they're interpreting things differently. So it's like, it's more than just meets the eye. It's not just about the story of the guy that goes to prison. There's much more in that movie than that.
That's a great movie.
My second one is The Wizard of Oz.
Oh,
Love that story.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, if for the same reasons, it's like you can watch it and then you can see different things depending, whether you're watching it with your grandchildren or your parents, right? There's a lot of different things.
Yeah, a lot of messages.
So I like those two. Those are probably two of my favorite films.
Excellent. Did you have a third?
Come up with a third. Okay. Maybe the Titanic.
Oh.
Even though that does have a sinking symbol. I don't want to.
You wanted an uplifting movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. This is the Risk Never Sleep podcast. I have to ask you this question. What's the riskiest thing you've ever done?
Okay. This is probably the riskiest thing I've ever done. So I had been living in Vermont for about 30 years. And 2 years ago, my husband and I sold our house with all of its contents in it.
Wow.
Packed up what could fit in the one car. We sold the other car, packed up what would fit in my car.
Wow.
And my bike rack with our 2 bicycles on the back. And pretty much drove across the country and bought a house in San Diego. It's like,
wow.
Don't know what's going to happen here, but let's have an adventure. So we took a 1-month bucket list road trip across the country and stopped at all our favorite stops and did some biking on amazing rail trails across the country and saw 3 football games in stadiums across the country and,
very cool.
Visited folks. And, this is where we landed. It was pretty risky because it's like, we didn't really know what was going to happen.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty. Now, did you say your children also are living close by too? So they live here. One of my daughters was living here then, and then my other daughter her husband's now stationed here. So we're all within miles of each other. That's terrific.
It's all working out. Life is good.
Working out.
Life
it's all coming together.
If I could just fix healthcare cyber, I would be awesome.
I think you have the DNA to do that.
I don't know.
We need to pack it all up in a little car and move it to another country.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that fixes it or makes it worse.
Oh, that's so funny. What hardest lesson in your career?
I'd say, like, when I was early in my career, I thought you had to know all the technical answers. You had to know everything about everything in order to be the best at what you're doing, and I'm one of those people that, you're going to give everything 120%, right? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until later that I realized it's the relationships that are the most important. It's the people that you know. It's impossible for one person to be able to know everything and be the best at everything. But what is possible is for you to have relationships with really good, smart people. Mm-hmm. And so I have relationships with people like you, Ed, and all of these other smart folks that are on the Health Sector Council, these amazing people on the Fortified team. It's been so amazing as a virtual CISO to be able to just ping out to a group of people that are smarter than I am and say, hey, how have you addressed this problem? And within 5 minutes, I've got all of these responses back from smart people. So it's just, we're not islands. We work best in community. And so leverage the community around you to accomplish what you're looking to accomplish. So that's kind of what I learned.
I love that answer. Amen.
Good.
Now, earlier you said you wanted to ask me a question. So I guess I'll allow you to ask me one question. Okay. Only one.
How did you end up in healthcare cyber?
Oh, well, that's a great question. So I've done pretty much every industry, varying types of technology throughout my career. And then when I was selling a company in 2009 that I helped start to Checkpoint Software. A good friend of mine reached out and said, hey, come on over and help me figure out what we're doing in healthcare. And I'd never done healthcare before, and it was always on my list. But prior to 2009, healthcare was always 5 years behind everybody in technology adoption. And then along comes 2009 with high tech and ARA and a bunch of money for a forklift technology upgrade for healthcare through meaningful use. And I thought, this could be really interesting. So that's how I got in it. And I quickly realized that everything I thought I knew about healthcare was wrong. And I didn't know anything about healthcare. And it was very humbling. And, but to your point, what I learned quickly was this shared mission existed only in healthcare. And from that, you develop these lasting relationships, like you said, that was like no other experience ever. So after we sold that company about a year in retirement or so, until my wife threw me back into the workforce. I was causing too much trouble, Kate. Can you believe that? I was causing too much trouble.
Wait till you get that grandbaby.
I can't wait. They'll be calling me the agent of chaos, as Ty calls me. He calls me the agent of chaos. It was not even a choice. I was like, I'm going into healthcare. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to go back into healthcare and figure it out. So
hopefully, you're going to stay in healthcare because you're doing a great job. You won't be like some of these other companies that thought they could do it and have since rethought maybe the complexity of it, or just the, even though healthcare is what the number one cost for our U.S. economy, it doesn't mean that we're rich.
No, by no means, actually. It's just the opposite.
So complex, so complex.
Yeah.
So,
and there's miles to go before we sleep. So
definitely, Robert.
To end on a poetic line there, and to connect with the Risk Never Sleeps podcast. See what I just did there?
Wow, you're amazing.
No, you inspired me. All right. Well, Kay Pierce, thank you so much for joining the podcast. This is Ed Gaudet from the Risk Never Sleeps podcast. If you're on the front lines, protecting patient safety and delivering patient care, remember to stay vigilant because risk never sleeps.